It is 7 o'clock.
Just slightly better than when we tried to get Taylor Swift tickets.
Yeah.
6 people signed up and 1 person got
Good evening, everyone. This is the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission meeting of April 16th, starting at right on time, 7 p.m. Can we have the call to order and roll call, please?
Commissioner Chen,
Here.
Commissioner Whitaker,
Present.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Here.
Vice Chair Peters,
Here.
Chair Alexander.
Here.
With everyone here, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll be in the regular session, and may I ask Commissioner Chen to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to the next item, we have items from members and staff, and at this particular point in time, I would like to call on our new Assistant City Manager, who I invited to come to our meeting, if he would like to address us with a few words, please. This is Adam Troy.
Officially, good evening, everybody. Good to see you guys. Thank you for the invite. As many know, I am a new convert to here in the city. Official start date was March the 23rd. And so we've been knee-deep in it since that period of time. As your chair and I have had an opportunity to conversate, some people ask, how do we see the priorities of the park? What's our leadership style? And I will simply share with you this framework. And I simply call it CARE, C-A-R-E. Not only do we download it inside of all the departments, but this is how I approach my work at this level. The C just simply stands for how do we connect. And so we'll spend the first 30 days making sure that we have alignment between the departments. We do a lot of listening to make sure that we understand the priorities. As many of you know, we're probably going through the budget process and the work plans right now, and that piece is going extremely well for us. The A has to deal with the alignment of interest and accountability. R is what relationships and resources do we have that may be missing that need to push to the center of the table so that all departments can benefit from it. And the E has to deal with storytelling and equity. How do we elevate those stories behind the scenes that don't seem to be getting told? And from an equity perspective, how do we make sure that those neighborhoods and constituencies that typically don't have access to the parks, which I like to refer to as the front porch to the city manager's house. So that framework seems to be working well for us so far, and excited to continue the work here. So thank you for the invitation, and I'm happy to address any questions that anyone may have.
Does anyone have questions? Thank you very much for coming to our meeting. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
You're taking the time.
Look forward to working with each of you.
Does staff have any comments, or do you want to defer to the end of the meeting?
I would like to provide a quick update about we are currently working on a project for court resurfacing. It's not on the agenda tonight, but I'd like to provide an update on where we are with that. So we started at Culver West Alexander Park, and we went, did the resurfacing there, and then we moved on to Lindbergh Park and did the tennis court there, and then we did the paddle tennis courts at Linda and Culver. And in the time that it took to get those 3 areas done, we have received a lot of feedback from various community members about the types of lines that should be on the courts, what it is to have dual-striped courts versus just paddle tennis courts, whether what types of colors we should use to attract pickleball players or keep it paddle tennis players. So we did put the project on hold so that we could get the community, sort through the community response. I had a meeting with the contractor yesterday where we talked about kind of regulations for both sports and what would be the best path moving forward. And so the direction we are going is Culver West Alexander paddle tennis courts will be resurfaced again. And in its place, we are going to leave it solely paddle tennis. We are not going to have dual stripes or pickleball. For pickleball, the reasoning behind that is because of the vicinity of the apartment building right there at those courts. And the decibels, we did a decibel reading, and the decibel of pickleball play at Culver West came in just under the sound of a leaf blower. So we are leaving it painted for paddle tennis. For the Alinda courts, we acknowledge that there's been a lot of feedback throughout the years about pickleball being played there. We do have the soundproofing panels at Alinda. That's the only place we do have those soundproofing panels. So I'm going to move forward with having that area dual striped. We are going to repaint it though, because the feedback we got that I do kind of agree with is that they are in essence paddle tennis courts. That is what they are actually meant to be. And so by having it painted similar to pickleball courts, it kind of it changes the idea of what these courts are. And it starts to become a pickleball court that allows paddle tennis, and that is not the intent we want to have. So we are going to repaint that. We will have the kitchen and some pickleball lines on there, but it will be one solid color to look more like a paddle tennis court instead of a pickleball court. Moving forward, after we fix those courts and get them to be how I described, the courts at Fox Hills are going to mirror the the Fox Hills courts are going to mirror the Alinda courts. So they will be dual stripe, but they will be one color, not two. And the Sid Cronenthal Park courts, paddle tennis courts, are going to mirror Culver West Alexander because of the vicinity of the houses. So that will be strictly a paddle tennis court. It will not have dual stripes. That's the direction we're moving forward with. So 2 sets of paddle tennis courts will be dual striped, and 2 sets will stay paddle tennis. I have, right now we are working on the tennis courts at Vets to give us time to just review and make sure this is exactly what needs to happen, and and give us time to confirm the lines and everything with the contractor before he moves forward with fixing Culver West and the Alinda courts. So that is an update on the resurfacing project. If you do have any questions, I can kind of answer them.
I have one. I know we have several balls in the air in terms of the future of possible siting of pickleball courts in different areas of the city. So how expensive is it to revisit the dual striping issue for the future if pickleball courts are actually installed in any of the proposed areas? Just curious. Obviously not as expensive as the whole resurfacing, but.
Correct. I'm pulling up the quote right now.
To stripe additional.
The Alinda courts are 10. So to go through, oh, that's just painting. That's I need to know what Culver West is.
This one is 46.
It's 46. So we have one quote right now from our contractor in changing it back. That's around 4,600.
Paddle tennis.
So that's for 3 paddle tennis courts, but that's kind of the painting, not necessarily the restriping. But to restripe, you have to repaint. So actually, yeah, it's going to be probably, for the 3 courts at Alinda, it's $4,600.
Okay. Commissioners, are there questions? Commissioner Whitaker?
Just for clarification, so none of them are going to have the kitchen painted? Are there?
Correct. So the courts that are dual stripe will have the lines for the kitchen,
Okay.
but the court itself will all be one color.
Any other items? You want to wait till the end of the meeting?
And everything else, we can wait till the end of the meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any comments? I'll start with Commissioner Chen this time.
I don't have any comments today, thank you.
Commissioner Whitaker.
Well, I'd first like to start off by saying it's been really a pleasure to see all the community come out to the different events that's been held over the past, I guess, say about 2-3 months now with the Let's Talk seminars. It was really good to see the community come out and be expressive in what they really wanted, especially for the parks. And I particularly love that. This city definitely needs an upgrade on our parks, and for the community to be behind it. I mean, we sit up here as a council, and of course, we're dedicated, our staff is dedicated, but for the community itself to be dedicated as well, it's really a big help and to push forward where the funding needs to go. And also, April 22nd is Vibes After 5 in Fox Hills. I'm pretty excited about that. That's at C3 Culver Point, right in front of TikTok. Yeah, I wasn't able to make the one at Helms, and I heard it was a really good time. So I'm excited one's coming to Fox Hills, so we'll be able to have one over there. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Bond?
I wish I were more upbeat. No, actually, I was also very happy going to a number of the Let's Talk meetings and hearing the amount of support that there was for the parks from the community. It just shows how important our parks are and how important what we do on this commission is and what they mean to our community. I would also like to call attention to a few things that I've been noticing as I end up walking around in the evenings around Vets Park with my husband, and then also being contacted by some friends of some activities around the park that it's just how are we going to handle them. Pretty much every night that my husband and I walk around Vets Park, we notice a woman sitting in the woman's bathroom under the heat, the hand dryer with the heat on. And there are some cars that are consistently parked there that I don't know if they stay overnight. But probably because I'm a commissioner, I now get all of these things from Charlie's friends and other people telling me things that are happening at the parks. And there was a young boy playing in Vets Park who was spit upon by a homeless woman. And then when they did call the police, but they refused to press charges, but they wanted the park staff to do something about that. I kind of had issues with that because I felt like if you're going to call the police, then maybe you should press charges because this is dangerous. She spit on the child. So there's some stuff like that that's happening. I've been noticing more homeless people around our parks again, and I'm just, especially after that, the boy is afraid to go to the parks now, and this is not something we should have. So I'm just wondering, how we can address this, because I don't know if this is out of the venue of Parks and Recs employees, if this is something that we need to be working with the police with to ensure that that doesn't happen. I think they called an employee and they refused to press trespassing charges on her. So, but really, to me, it was more that the parent should have been also doing something about it. It's like you can't push your responsibilities off onto someone else. That's just my personal opinion. So, but then looking at what happened in Fox Hills recently, it's like, how do we make sure, I know we have a very thin staff, so how do we make sure that our parks are safe, and that our residents feel comfortable taking their children to the parks and walking around the parks? I mean, my husband and I haven't had any issues. We walk around at night. How many people can say that in LA, that you can walk around your neighborhood at night and not worry about it? So I just like to make sure that it continues this way and that everybody feels safe at our parks, because they are so important. So anyway, but other than that, I hope everybody had a great Easter and break and everything else.
Vice Chair Peters?
Yeah, I've been getting out in the parks. I just wanted to remind, if there's anybody listening, that the fields at Bill Bott's are for kids to play, not dogs. I've now seen several times where people's dogs, especially, are running on the grassy part of Field 1, which is the lower field, which the kids do use to practice on. And also, I worry because, especially as we get the older kids, they can actually hit balls out there. You might get hit in the head. But just in general, that those fields are meant for play, and we don't want our kids falling onto dog poop and things like that. So please remember, there's a dog park right nearby that your doggy can go run around free. So just a reminder, I've seen some people and said a couple things to people that is not a dog park, so just a reminder. And just in general, to remember that dogs are not supposed to be in the parks unless they're at the proper dog paths. So that's it for me.
Thank you. I'm going to speak to one item that sort of touches on both what the Vice Chair said and what Commissioner Bond had to say concerning some things happening at the park. I'm not sure exactly where this is going to be going, but just to make everybody on the commission aware of how the mechanics work, in addition to our park staff, and then of course we have police doing their function in the city has, or had, 2 park patrol that are actually not under the purview of PRCS, but they're under the purview of code enforcement. So I'm not exactly sure how the mechanics of that work in terms of how they get deployed to address some of these things. However, we are currently in a situation where we only have 1 park patrol for 13 parks, because there's been, and these things aren't always permanent. At least at the time being, there was a budget hold put on the recruitment for that vacant position. The person retired. And so I took the opportunity to notice what's going on with that and sent a request to please, through the budget process, have them take a look at that, because of all of these things that I think we're all hearing. Commissioner Bond was talking about issue with some of the homeless in Veterans Park. Apparently in Tellefson Park, there was actually a fire that was put out that was believed to have been caused by someone who was camping in the park. So I'm sure we want to get control over all of these issues in all of the parks, and I think at least one way to start to do that is to make sure that if we have positions, we can get them filled so they can do what they're assigned to do. During this last month, I think I've attended more meetings associated with fun things like design of parks. I went to 2 of them, one for Tellefson's Park and one for Lindbergh Park. I particularly liked the Lindbergh Park one because it included children and asked them to take their crayons and mark on a map exactly how they would do it. But it was also interactive for their parents as well because staff did a very good job in showing the different kinds of playground equipment that could potentially be put in Lindbergh Park. So I was at those meetings. I was at several of the aforementioned budget meetings that Commissioner Whitaker spoke of because it's super important. In fact, that's why we're having a special meeting today instead of our normal meeting night, because we wanted to ensure that commissioners were able to go to one of the budget meetings that was scheduled on our normal meeting night. And also our staff needed to go there because our presence is only our voices, but we love to hear your voices in supporting all that we can do in providing those third spaces in the best possible manner to you. And I also participated in the first advisory panel round for the hiring of the director for PRCS. So, and then my understanding was the final interviews were to take place, so hopefully we'll be hearing soon on that. Other than that, I have no other comments. And if there are no other comments from staff till the end of the meeting, we can continue on with our agenda to public comment for items not on the agenda.
We have one speaker,
Okay,
Francesca Calloway.
3 minutes, please.
Good evening. My name is Francesca Calloway. This is Brooke Harrington and Gabe Cohen. And I've been my family and I have been residents of the Veterans Park area of Culver City for 10 years. We are also Masters of Social Work students at USC, focused on equity and community well-being. When my husband and I chose to purchase a home here, we were drawn to its green spaces. And on paper, Culver City delivers. 13 parks across 90 acres is a real investment. I'm also the mother of a 10-year-old daughter with physical disabilities, and I've seen firsthand that these spaces are unfortunately not welcoming to everyone.
Hello, going off of that, not one of our parks is intentionally designed for the 1 in 4 residents living with disabilities. And at the same time, Culver City has a higher proportion of residents over 85 than the broader LA area. And more than a third of our seniors live with disabilities. And these aren't small groups, these are our neighbors, our families, and ultimately our community.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. Inclusive parks are not a luxury. They are a civil right and a public health necessity. Features like adaptive equipment, smooth pathways, sensory-friendly spaces, and accessible seating don't just serve people with disabilities. They support seniors, parents with strollers, veterans, and anyone recovering from an injury. When we design for those with the greatest needs, we create better spaces for everyone. Culver City has named diversity, equity, and inclusion as priorities, and you heard the new Assistant City Commissioner talk about this earlier. Now is the time to act, with funding, planning, and clear implementation. Neighboring communities like Santa Monica and Marina del Rey have already made this investment. We should meet that standard too. Our parks should reflect our values. Let's make sure they truly belong to everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And Deputy Director, when we get to your comments at the end of the meeting, if you could discuss what transpired at the Lindbergh Park meeting that may be related to what these individuals have presented to us, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Moving on to receipt of correspondence, I believe we had 2 items that were both related to A1 on our agenda, correct?
Correct.
Is there a motion to receive correspondence?
I motion to receive the correspondence.
I second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Peters, seconded by Commissioner Chen to receive the correspondence. You may vote.
Where's my voting screen? I'm scrolling down. Here. I don't have one either. What? An error? Okay, I guess we can do voice vote then.
So it looks like we're having some technical difficulties, but we'll just go ahead and do a vote by roll call. So Commissioner Whitaker?
Yay.
Commissioner Chen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Peters?
Aye.
Chair Alexander?
Aye.
And with that, the motion passes unanimously.
All right. We're moving on to the action items. Is there any desire to change the order of the agenda? If not, we'll go directly to action item A1, which is to receive and file a report on potential food truck permit program to regulate the operation of food trucks near parks and provide recommendations to staff as deemed appropriate. This particular item appeared before the city council, and I made a request at that meeting if there was the possibility for our commission through an ad hoc committee to work with staff on these items, because this body is very familiar with dealing with regulations regarding park operations, and so we have done that here. And I will point out, as it notes on the agenda, it's regarding regulating of food trucks near parks. This item is not going to be addressing anything in the municipal code regarding food trucks near schools or any locations other than parks. Can I have a staff report, please?
Just want to note we have 3 speakers, but we'll call them after the staff report or the presentation. Whoop.
Thank you.
Not sure why it started way over there. Okay, so to better understand how Culver City's food truck vending policies compare to neighborhood West Side cities, staff conducted a review of regulations and processes for West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, and El Segundo. Our focus was operational time limits, park access, and permitting structure. Across all jurisdictions, we had similar requirements like business license, health permits, seller's permits, insurance, and for the most part, they all required some sort of special permission or special event permit for park access, but they had differing structures highlighted in the following slides. West Hollywood operated more of a time-limited street model that's structured and predictable, but allows for vending and protects restaurants and parks. Some highlights include a 60-minute per block restriction, a 4-hour return restriction, meaning vendors are restricted from parking within 2 blocks of a previously occupied location for 4 hours, a 200-foot buffer zone from restaurants, and then event permits are required for park access. Beverly Hills was probably the most strict, and it's more of an event-only or highly curated model. It focuses more on control and business protection rather than open access. There's no general park vending, again, without special permissions or a special event permit, and it's primarily limited to city-sanctioned events, which can involve the vendor selection process that depends on quality, appeal, and fit for an event, and they have very strict residential limits. Santa Monica is more of a geographically detailed and environmentally stringent due to the pier in the ocean, has a heavy focus on congestion and landmark protection. There is a major exclusion zone near the pier, restrictions around Palisades Park and the adjacent streets, and strict rules on sustainability. These were the takeaways that we thought we would incorporate when trying to develop the program for Culver City. The first being restricted parks. We didn't want to just open it up to allow vending at all of our parks. We wanted to look at which parks were the most feasible. Return and time restrictions to kind of limit the or control, I guess, the times that vendors are at the parks and the frequency that they're at the parks. Because they are going to be vending near parks, we wanted the approval process to go through PRCS, and then park access. What would be required for food truck to have park access, whether that be a field permit or, depending on the planned activity, possibly a special event permit. So this is a general overview of the application process. Applications will be accepted annually from April 1st through April 30th. The permits will be valid for 1 year period, July through June, following the application cycle. The applicants must request their preferred park locations and dates during the application window, and assignments will be made on a first-come, first-served basis. Late applications and incomplete applications will not be accepted. If a requested time or location is unavailable and there's availability at other locations, staff will work with the vendor on alternative locations and times. These, again, are the required documents for the proposed framework. Culver City business license, public health permit, seller's permit from the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, signed terms and conditions acknowledgement form. We're still trying to iron out all of the terms and conditions, but basically just saying that you're going to abide by whatever terms that PRCS puts forward, and their certificates of insurance with the required dollar amounts or insurance requirements. Food trucks are only allowed to operate during the following times listed here. No permits will be issued for city closed holidays, and no more than 2 food trucks at any given park at the same time. The proposed framework limits food trucks to 1 park per week, 4 parks per month, and 4 vending engagements per month. Again, park access is restricted. Vendors will not be allowed to set up chairs, tables, tents, et cetera, on park grounds with just the food truck vending permit, unless they obtain a field permit or, again, depending on the activity, a special event permit may be required. These are just the general dimensions of the food truck. We have the DMV limits, and then the what most food trucks in Los Angeles operate under. I think for our framework, we're proposing about 16 to 26 feet as the restrictions, which kind of falls in line. And then these next couple of slides are the proposed park locations. Again, staff looked at which parks were most feasible and what locations worked best for food truck vending. So on the left, you have Carlson Park. You have 2 locations, one on Braddock and one on Le Bourg. There we go. And then for Culver West Alexander, we have one on the little turnabout or up at the top. For El Marino Park, we have one on Diller Ave and one on Berryman Ave. For Tellefson Park, we just have that one down on Washington Place. This is Lindbergh, so one on either side of the street, one on Roadaway and one on Ocean Drive. And then this is Vets, one on Coombs and one on Barman Avenue. I don't think it was mentioned in the PowerPoint, but the parking locations will be reserved. So we'll work with the vendors and ensure that that spot is reserved, so it's not like they're just getting the permit and have to figure it out after that. These are just general terms and conditions. I think it's like the next 2 or 3 sites, but the permits are valid for a year. They're non-transferable. A copy of their approved application must be available upon request. They must comply with all local regulations, the Culver City Municipal Code, the LA Public Health Department, California Retail Food Code, and any state and federal laws. They can't block entrances to the parks, pathways, or ADA routes. They won't be allowed to interfere with permitted park activities. So if there's already an activity going on, PRCS staff probably won't grant the permit for that day and time. And they have to operate within the restricted or allowable areas that we just went through. They must maintain 4-foot pedestrian clearance and ADA accessibility at all times. The food truck must be self-contained, pick up all waste, no external power, plumbing, sidewalk generators, things like that. They must park legally. Again, no tables, chairs, or seating unless that special permit and or field permit is obtained beforehand, and then absolutely no alcohol sales. We want to limit the amount of noise and disturbances. They have to comply with fire safety, maintain active liability insurance. They're subject to inspection at any time by any of the local, for example, if the Department of Public Health wants to send somebody to inspect their vehicle for, whatever reason, they have to comply, and then violations might result in citations, fines, suspension, or revoking the permit. Any questions?
I think I'd like to take public comment now before Commissioner questions, please.
So we have 3 speakers, Luke Lucas, Debbie Gambino, and Shakisha Palmer Courtney. The first will be Luke Lucas, and I believe he's joining virtually.
Okay. 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. My name is Luke with Windsor Hills Pizza. I checked the permit program and it looks great. The only item I would like to request a change to is the amount of times food trucks can visit a week. Right now, the program limits vendors to 1 park a week, and I would like to request a change to 2 parks a week. Our goal is to create community at parks, and it is hard to when we are limited to only 1 park per week. It doesn't allow consistency, which is what our Culver City families love. Only visiting parks once a week would cut our business dramatically as well and cause us to have to let go of some of our current employees, and will also lead to less job opportunities for other local high schoolers. Again, we just hope that you can adjust it to 2 parks per week for vendors with this permit. And thank you guys so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Next, we have Debbie Gambino.
Good evening, thank you. I am in the food business myself. I do not operate a food truck. I have a brick and mortar. However, when I was reading all of the requirements, et cetera, they seem perfectly in line. The only recommendation I would make was Carlson Park. You said the areas were on Les Bourget and Braddock? Is that correct? Braddock, no. It's too busy of a street. There's not really room. Currently, the pizza truck operates on motor, and that has not seemed, in all of my times of seeing them there, has not seemed to obstruct any traffic. No neighbors have complained. I myself drive Braddock quite often, and I would have an issue with a food truck being on Braddock. As far as, I would tend to agree with Windsor Pizza. They are at 2 parks per week. Again, it does not seem to interfere with the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, the neighbors quite enjoy it and are used to having it set days per week. The moms know they don't have to cook those days. They can come out, they can enjoy the area with their neighbors. And I would say until it gets out of control, which I don't think it would, and it's very difficult for a small business to operate, and cutting their time they're able to operate would be detrimental to them. So I would ask you to reconsider that. And I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lastly, we have Shakisha Palmer Courtney.
Hello. I am the owner of the bright orange ice cream truck that rolls around town called the Cali Pop. I collab a lot with Luke, and I agree with what he's saying as far as a couple of days a week. I know my truck is smaller than the food truck, but we're more so 30-minute increments sometimes during the week at majority of the parks. So if 3 days can be recommended, I will agree. That's it. All right.
Thank you. I guess we can probably combine commissioner comments and questions. And since we usually start with the junior commissioners, it's convenient that they were both on the subcommittee, because I'm really interested in hearing what items were of concern or interest to you from the subcommittee level. So if we could start with you, Commissioner Whitaker.
Before we do that, I think
Yes.
there's one additional written public comment.
Do we read written public comments into the record?
Are you talking about what was emailed to you, for the correspondence?
I don't know, I guess it's on the screen, so I was just wondering, the e-comment, there's an e-comment.
Yes, so that's was part of your correspondence. It's part of public record, so we don't need to read it out loud. But it is for your information also.
So that was the
That's
two.
one of the two correspondence that you got,
we
yes.
adopted earlier, yes. Okay, great. Commissioner Whitaker.
Well, from the ad hoc meeting, the initial, what was brought up first was that the size of the food trucks originally, it really wasn't stipulated, so there needed to be a stipulation for that. Just the idea behind it was if somebody had, let's say, a large smoker. I know Windsor Hills, they have their structure that they set up at Fox Hills most Fridays, right? So the idea was to try to keep the to a minimum in certain parks, obviously, behind that. Because if you had a large trailer, let's say, for instance, a smoker, if somebody does barbecue, with also their food truck, it takes up a great deal of space, right? So you don't want to have basically it taking up half the side of a park, and then that what that does is create parking issues and then also obstruction to the park for children to play. So that was a big deal, first and foremost, through the ad hoc. Also, there was basically trying to figure out, obviously, how many days that someone can vend, right? And and staff did a great job here with the one food truck per week. And I don't want to necessarily say that I disagree. I think we should be able to come to a happy medium somewhere with that. Whereas maybe it could be 2, or maybe we could stick to 1. But the idea was not for, obviously, the neighborhood to be concerned about noise, and also for the neighborhood to be concerned about trash pickup, et cetera, that would come along with food vending in the neighborhood outside the parks. Also in there, which I noticed but didn't mention, was that Windsor Hills is at Fox Hills most Fridays, and we left Fox Hills off of this, and I didn't know why. So if there could be an update at some point.
Yeah, I can update now. Are you asking me to update now?
Yeah. If you could. 'Cause
So, a major thing that we took into account when we were considering things is parking. And so Fox Hills, we frequently get, I want a better word than complaint, but but people remind us what the parking is like over there. And so allowing an actual food truck to be there weekly, taking up those parking spaces for those apartments, was something that we just decided wouldn't be best. When we host events at Fox Hills Park, we have access to bringing it up into the park, which is why we feel like when it comes to bringing food trucks to that area, it's best to be able to tie it into an event and bring them into the park than taking up the parking for those apartments and condos.
Thank you, Deputy Director. So that was my other question that I had that I wasn't able to bring up during the ad hoc committee meeting. Moreover than that, there were a lot of good things. What we didn't go over particularly, and I think that will probably be more into the city, but we didn't go over fee structure of the permitting in the ad hoc committee meeting. We didn't go over that. So that wasn't noted. Other than that, it was fantastic work in the amount of time that this was done, and I really appreciate you, Deputy Director, for getting this done, as well as staff too. It was really good and really efficient and on time for the small allotted time we had. So that's what I have on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add one comment, Chair?
Yes.
So thank you, Commissioner. I will say that it was not definitely me, it was staff doing the heavy lifting on this. So I just want to give a shout out to Parks and Rec staff. Megan, Adrian, and Dorian really did a lot of the research and brought me great material. So thank you to them. For the fee for the permit, again, you took the words right out of my mouth. We did, because of the time frame we had to put all of this together, do the research and figure it out. Instead of diving deeply into the details of what the fee needs to be and what makes up that fee, we're recommending that we make the fee for the permit $150, because that's the same fee for the sidewalk vending. And we feel that those permits, whereas they definitely allow different things, are pretty comparable. So we're recommending $150 for the fee. So that would be annually.
Commissioner Chen.
I also want to really appreciate the staff's work. I thought that when we met as the ad hoc committee, it was already very well developed, and then I can see answers to questions that were posed by Commissioner Whitaker and myself in tonight's presentation, which is, further developed. So I think I really appreciate that. We did have a little bit of discussion, just kind of aligning on what are we trying to achieve here, right? And so I might suggest that we, continue to speak about that in this group here, right? That we're really doing this because community members want to have food choices near their parks. I think that's just a different perspective than if we're saying we're using this for revenue generation or we're using this for, I don't know, whatever. But the point is, I think that people want it. And so trying to make that process friendly, trying to bring in the perspectives on the experiences we already have, like what you're saying, Commissioner Whitaker, about the pizza truck at Fox Hills and our speakers who themselves have already been vending in the community. I think that's an important thing to bring up that we want, what we're trying to achieve, right? And then I guess, since it was new to me to see the slide on the size range of trucks, I did really appreciate the clarification that the spaces would be reserved, because we had some questions about, well, what's the point of granting permission if we don't actually really reserve that space for them, and what happens if then they end up sort of shifting up or down the street from the little picture as marked. But it just came to mind as Shakisha was speaking, if we designate, you said, I think, up to 24 feet, and you have kind of a range of trucks, will there be some will there be some combination where you're kind of taking into account the size of the trucks? If you have a small ice cream truck, would you then have a large, or I'm just wondering how that fits, how those pieces fit together with the reserved space, or if it really doesn't matter, because you're just saying you're setting out enough space for up to 2 large trucks.
So I think staff's intent, and, is very much open for discussion tonight, is that it lends itself to one food truck at a time, not multiple, because of we're trying to avoid, first of all, creating a row of multiple trucks competing with each other. We're trying to bring a variety of trucks at different times and days to the park. So the idea is, for the size, isn't like if we can get, how many can we get into the 24? The idea for the size and restricting it was, if someone shows up with like 4 trailers that they're pulling, and it's really the length of an entire street, we're trying not to set up an entire infrastructure each day kind of idea. So and that's also why in terms and conditions, it has to be fully self-contained, and those things, that wording is included there, so that we truly are getting mobile food vendors and not people that can just bring all sorts of things. So that's more of staff's intent behind it.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bond.
So I did have a few questions here. Because we're in the middle of April right now, and it was saying, okay, you'll be able to sign up for the month of April. How is this going to work this year?
So staff's goal is that it goes to City Council in May.
Yep.
And if approved, we would work quickly to implement the period for application in June. So we would still stay. The goal is to always have permits start July 1st, so with the fiscal year. And then moving forward, to give staff time, the application period would be April.
Okay, so then the permit would start again in June, is what you're saying?
July.
Even though you can, July.
Yeah.
So if they apply in April, then it'll start in July
It would start
again.
in July.
Okay, all right. There was something on the presentation that, when I read it, it had to do with the number of times that the trucks could vend, and it specifically said 4 vending engagements per month, and that reads like they can only do 4 vending engagements through the entire month in Culver City. And I know it only deals with the parks, but if we can be more precise in our language rather than try to limit them from being able to do more. So when we're talking about permitted activities, for instance, like Vets Park is extremely busy on Saturdays, and I'm sure food trucks would love to be there, and people might actually like that. It just comes down to the parking, where if you park on the street, and if they have, say, slow pitch games permitted for the entire morning, which a lot of times they do, are we going to limit, because that becomes 11 to 7 p.m. and the slow pitch and these other games push into 11 o'clock?
So one reason why we're wanting the April timeline is because part of us by us saying you could have food trucks Monday through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's just letting them know the possibility. That's not a guarantee that we're putting a food truck at that time.
Right.
So what staff will be doing during the application process is reviewing what things are happening in the parks, very much like that, and tracking what our parking issues going to be, what are the amount of people that are coming into the park, and how that will affect if a food truck is there. It will be great for the food truck, but it might not be great for the amount of people, right? So those are things that staff are reviewing during the application process to see does a food truck at that specific day and time align with what also is going on at the parks.
Okay, and then, also consider, especially at Vets Park, the Vendy, because they do have stuff that happens on the weekends at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and
Yeah, absolutely.
and that creates.
By doing it in April, this is also about the same time that the special event grant is being considered and reviewed. So we also want to align it for things like that. So if there is a special event happening at Vets that we might not be putting on, so it might not be exactly on our radar, we would partner with economic development that oversees that grant to make sure we're not putting food trucks at their events. But we can also incorporate the Venday also, because that's a good idea.
Okay. So I agree with what Debbie was talking about, putting on the food trucks on Braddock along Carlson Park. One of the main reasons I would say is along Braddock, the roots from those trees would make it pretty dangerous maybe for some people who want access to those food trucks, whether young kids, the elderly, the disabled, they would not be able to access them because of the roots would cause a tripping hazard. So I kind of agree. Well, I actually do agree. I think that we need to find a way to allow these trucks, especially the ones that have been servicing our community for a while, that are obviously very much embedded in the Culver community. Not to say we're going to be discriminating against others, but maybe what we look at is partially saying that you can have, rather than someone camping out at one park all the time every week, you say you can have X number of times, but you can only be at that one park once a week. So you could allow them access to other parks without necessarily having them, so they're not always at that one park every day of the week. Does that, am I making sense there? So it gives kind of a happy medium, and then maybe you do limit it to 2 or 3 parks a week, but they can't repeat coming back to that park more than once a week. Because, for instance, like Windsor Pizza goes to Carlson Park once a week, so he has it set up that people know that he's going to be there Wednesdays? I'm not sure. It's Wednesdays? Okay. I'm just throwing these ideas out there. Not that we have any control over this, but will those fees be coming into our budget? Because that would be wonderful. It would be a way to help us with all of these maintenance and stuff that.
Yes, it is a new revenue stream. So yes, it would be. We plan on, after doing the application process, using our online registration system to send them an invoice to pay once they're approved. So it would be going through our registration system and be coming into our budget.
Okay, great. Those were all my questions.
Vice Chair Peters.
Yeah, so I had a couple questions and then more like comments, suggestions. So one of my questions was that this 1 park per week, was that like, I was a little confused by how many times you could vend versus how many parks you could vend at. And so was 1 park per week meant like 1 day in 1 park per week, or did it mean that you could do like all 7 days in 1 park?
It did not mean you could do all 7 days in 1 park.
Gotcha. All right, yeah, so, I sort of agree with their commenters and what other people were saying is, I think we could allow all right, I'll step back a second. I did an informal poll and of my community, which was very pro food truck at all things at all times. So, and some of the members of my household were saying, like, why not 10 food trucks at all places at all times? You know, have all the options. So I do think about this in terms of wanting to balance, like, I could see it could be annoying for the neighbors with wanting to have services for the parks, none of which really have food right now. And so I think we could definitely allow people to have opportunities a couple more times a week, at least the beginning. And so thinking 2 or 3 days a week makes sense to me, where people could choose which 2 to 3 days a week, at least for now. And maybe in the future, we decide that's too much, or maybe we decide that's too little. So I think we could allow people to have, you know, a little bit more access to the parks. I also was wondering why there was nothing up at Culver City Park / Bill Bott's. Maybe not on the, I can imagine on the weekends, the Little League and AYSO might be worried about it cannibalizing their snack shack, but they're not usually open on the weekdays. And especially, you know, weeknights might be a good time to be up there as a food truck, because there's a lot of parents who haven't had dinner, have to go sit at these long games. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. So I was wondering just why, was there a reason why we didn't put one at Bott's? Because I could imagine you could put it, the other reason not to do it on the weekends is the weekends, really there is no parking up there, but during the weeknights, there are not so many games, and so I could imagine you could put them along the street that goes between the lower and upper fields. And then I was also just curious, one concern I had by having applications in April was that you might have somebody who creates a new food truck in September or some other time in the year, and who then wouldn't get access to the parks at all. So I was wondering if there was any way we could think about having a second time per year for new trucks. Just because, like, right now, by only having it once a year, you could imagine if you are a new truck vendor and you didn't know about it, or you didn't apply, or you didn't start until April or till October or something like that, you're now shut out of the parks, and that might make or break your food truck. So if we wanted to think about allowing new businesses to enter the marketplace, we might want to think about, could we do a second period per year that would be like January 1 through July 1? Those are all my questions.
Okay. So I'm going to respond to Culver City Park first. So there is many different categories of vendors in the municipal code. Sidewalk vendors are regulated sidewalks. Food truck vendors are, of course, food trucks. There's also, I can't remember the exact title of this, but people who sell food, but they're allowed to walk around. And that is actually quite limited in Culver City, but it is allowed in Culver City Park. So one reason why we didn't put food trucks in Culver City Park is because those vendors are allowed to walk around Culver City Park and sell food. And so we didn't want to necessarily have two permits that overlap and could contradict with each other.
Okay.
And then your second question was, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It was about...
About why not?
Oh, why not the second? So, I mean, one reason why we're trying to restrict it to April is managing staff resources and staff time, and making sure that this doesn't become something that staff ends up having a dedicated staff dealing with the phone calls and the applications coming in. With that being said, if we are choosing, specific... The reason we want specific days and times is so that we also have the ability to say, okay, we're filled for the year. So I am not opposed to, if we have openings and someone puts in an application, for us to consider it during a second window. But if April, everything gets booked, then saying, sorry, you have to wait for next year. So I'm not opposed to kind of a middle ground there.
Sounds good. And then what about giving people more days?
Staff is going to look at this. It is, I hear what everyone is saying, that, and I do like what Commissioner Chin said. This came about not because the city decided we wanted to have a permit, but because residents are enjoying something that's happening. The main thing is, if we're looking at trying, we have to look at the whole picture, not what is happening with one specific vendor, right? So the whole picture, if we have, how many parks did we have chosen? 6? So if we end up selling out for a week, that gives us, and people can be in multiple parks each day. I mean, it just becomes mathematically a lot of, it could be a lot of vendors that we're juggling, and ideally, we're trying to allow as many vendors as possible. So the core reason behind it was really just like, how can we see what someone wants, book them in the slot, and then make sure someone else has the opportunity to be here in Culver City. But this is a new program, so I'm not opposed to taking this back to staff, looking at what we can do, possibly adding another day, and then seeing down the road if it's getting to the point where it's being monopolized by certain people, pulling that back. I'm not, I'm saying this from the standpoint that staff is not necessarily 100% only one day a week, right? We are open to considering it.
Oh, and then just one other question. When you get the permit for, like, let's say, this is more just informational. Let's say I say, okay, I want the permit for Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, I always want to be at Carlson. Is my permit then from 3 to 7? Or if it's like, I want the weekend, am I permitted for the entire day?
So each day has specific times.
Or are you splitting times? Like, could I say, like, I just want 2 hours? Okay, that's what I was.
We're not splitting time. So if you wanted it for Tuesday, you could be there from 3 to 7. If you choose to only do an hour of that, that's up to you. We do, because we are reserving a spot, we did put in, which I don't know if it was in the presentation, we did add a clause that if you are a no-show 2 times, then that cancels out your permit, because we don't want to be reserving spots and then no one using them. But the idea is you're 3 to 7. If you wanted to come later, just let us know so that we know when you're going to be there. But it's your hours.
Great. All right, that's it for me.
Thank you. So I appreciate the hard work that staff put into this, and also on the subcommittee, because we were given a very short time frame by the city council to turn this around for their consideration. So a lot of thought has been put into it. I have a few questions and then some thoughts. So we don't have all the parks. We only have certain parks. What was the thought process of choosing those parks again? The amount of traffic you think that they could get for the food trucks, the ability to place the trucks in a good location?
Primarily, it was placement of the trucks, how it would affect the parking in those areas, and if we actually had a spot to put it at the park. So Sid Cronenthal, there's not really, it would be put into the parking lot if we were going to put a food truck at that park. So that's why it's not. Fox Hills, again, it's not going into the park. It would be down just on the skirts of it. So a lot of it came down to where can we actually put a food truck at the park? And then how would that affect parking around it?
So if a park isn't already on the list, you've already determined that those restrictive qualities mean that it couldn't be used in the future. I'm only asking because if somebody in another neighborhood comes by and sees it there, they might want to wonder, why can't we have one for our neighborhood?
I think because this is a new thing, we're always open to the ebb and flow and maybe shifting it if we need to. But as of right now, we're only looking at the parks we presented.
Okay.
And so for this first year, those other parks would not have food trucks be allowed.
And would you say it would be accurate to call this kind of a pilot program in a way?
I mean, you could use that phrase if you wanted to. It is a legitimate permit that we'll be issuing, so, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily a pilot program, because it isn't just us looking at one park and trying one thing for like 3 months. We are doing a legitimate permit that will be good for a year, so. But, I mean, it definitely is a trial for a year to see how it works.
And so some of the comments that we've heard here and also have been written to us expressing concerns about certain things, I'm wondering, at the end of the period, I guess there's going to be a measurement focus on what those potential problems or the good comments that come from having these in parks, and some kind of a report that would come out before we automatically continue the program?
Yes, I mean, staff would be monitoring it all year, seeing how it's working, where it might not be working. From staff's perspective, the biggest concern and what we will be primarily focused on making sure we monitor is, allowing a food truck at a park. It's a fine line before they start to move into the park, and we rent our fields, right? So if someone has a birthday party that they rented the field and the picnic shelter, and there is a food truck there, making sure that food truck is staying where it needs to stay and not encroaching onto the park is our main thing that we're monitoring this first year, and saying, is that happening? Are we able to navigate that? Because that is really going to be the thing that figures, can we add more days? All of these other things go into, okay, yes, we actually were able to monitor, we were able to make sure the food truck had what it needed, but it didn't take space away from people who were doing it, using the parks for other things.
Yeah.
And so then we could explore expanding it, or it might come back that like we need to restrict it more or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like the push me, pull you that we often deal with parks up here. I mean, the whole idea is to enhance the potential of these third spaces in parks by providing the access to the food truck, and that will probably maybe increase the dwell time that people spend in the parks and using them, which is usually something that we want to have, but we have to obviously balance this out with the concerns of the neighbors. I mean, one could say, well, you knew when you bought the house that you were across the street from a park, but nonetheless, we need to be cognizant of that. So it seems like your staff was thinking of a lot of those things, so I appreciate it. When we launch this program, is there going to be some kind of, advertising to the food truck community so that they know that this is available, or are we expecting them to do that via word of mouth?
No, we would be doing advertising. We don't have the exact details of that because we haven't gotten there yet, but definitely because it's a new permit process, we wouldn't expect word of mouth. We would do everything we could to make sure the word gets out, because we don't want, it doesn't help us if it's not successful this first year, because then we don't have anything we can measure. So we would do everything we could to get a robust number of applicants.
And in terms of various enforcement issues that could arise from this, I mean, the health ones might be taken care of by the county since they're the ones that issue the permits, but then there's the other ones. Are we anticipating those would be enforced by the normal park staff that would be there, or is this going to become something for the park patrols, which goes to code enforcement?
So it's not, park staff can't enforce municipal code. Only code enforcement can do that. So when park staff sees something that's going against code, their responsibility is to either contact code enforcement if people are on duty, or contact police.
So the park patrol that is out of code enforcement, is that code enforcement or not?
It's code enforcement.
It is. So we're down to that one person again, currently. This is why I'm asking the question. If we're going to launch a program such as this, and we want it to launch well for the community, it would be really great if we could have both those park patrol people available.
I will also add, PRCS, code enforcement, and police have been working together to make sure there is enforcement covered via either watch command. The gentleman who is our park patrol is changing his schedule and he has been approved to work overtime, so he is working 7 days a week right now. So I just want to add, yes, we are down a park patrol, but that's not like, no one is just like turning a blind eye. We are working to make sure eyes are on the parks.
Yes, you're pivoting to control
Yes.
it the best way that you can, we realize. But this is going to be yet an added responsibility for those people that are shifting. Okay, great. And I think that at one time, I think this came up when we were dealing with the Parks Master Plan, we were talking about the possibilities, I don't know, of having like coffee trucks or some other kind of things actually in parks. So I know that's kind of like out in the future, but I would just suggest that if we're also having these food truck programs, but we actually get to a point where we have some of those, I'm thinking probably in the regional parks, we may want to just keep that in consideration when we go through the issuing of the permits for these. And I can say that I go to Culver Park a lot, and I never see whoever the people are that you say that are walking around. What are they vending there?
I mean, I just know where that those vendors are allowed to go. I don't know if anyone actually has been getting the permit, but it's a specific food permit, vending permit that allows you to basically walk around. So you might be able to have a small cart for ice cream, or, there's just various mobile vendors that are allowed to be in Culver City Park.
Okay, great. That's all my comments and questions. Commissioner Bond has an additional?
Just as everybody was talking, I was just wondering, Tommy, how popular was the pizza truck at Fox Hills Park?
It was pretty popular. There would always be a line there from the time that I would drive by and go home. They would be there on Fridays. There would be a line going down the sidewalk. So it is pretty popular. And also, not to be anecdotal, but my daughter goes over there all the time as well, too. So it's pretty popular, but I can understand how, because over there we are lacking on parking. So I can understand how people in the community would be a little frustrated by there not being it, but also it only, I would say, the structure took about 2-3 parking spaces, and where it's located, those cars could probably park somewhere else, just to be honest. But I can understand if there's people in the community who are don't see fit that it could work, but I do think we should look into it in the future, going forward, and just see how this roll out amongst the parks that we have right now, see if it goes smoothly, and then maybe we could definitely look into maybe reinstating Fox Hills, or maybe in a different location, somewhere around the park.
I'm curious for Fox Hills, since it has been in place, and you talked about Deputy Director monitoring, how this permit program goes after it starts. So what kind of comments or, either positive or negative comments have you received to date regarding the existing program at Fox Hills? Because that's always interesting to get the real life experience as to complement the theoretical construct of we're trying to avoid impacting parking too much.
It's a regular occurrence where we hear about the parking at Fox Hills.
But related to the existing food truck? That's my
So
question.
we haven't heard much about the existing food truck specifically. I'm trying to remember, and I don't have the stuff in front of me, so I apologize. There is a special event permit that a food truck could get. And there is a second type of permit that restricts a food truck from being 300 feet within a park. But I can't remember which permit it is.
Is it a street vendor?
Maybe a street vendor. I can look into it and update everyone. But Fox Hills is an interesting park because it is on a hill. So another reason why it wasn't necessarily one of the major ones we pursued is I believe a food truck could get a different permit and it would qualify because of the distance the food truck would be from Fox Hills. But what I'm willing to do is let's take a look at Fox Hills and let's take a look at what those other permit options are and see if it falls into a different category or if we need to possibly include it in this park permit. Because Fox Hills is just the location of it with the hill and the distance that food truck is from where the park patrons would be. It's my gut is telling me it falls into a different permit, but we'll research it, and if I'm wrong, we will internally talk and see if we want to add Fox Hills.
So then the question became for me too was, what if we did something with some of the other parks after we see how it goes with the parks that we have? If we actually maybe ask the neighbors about some of these other parks that have limited parking, like Sid Cornwell, because yes, they're in the arts district, but right by that park, they don't really have anything. And maybe on the weeknights, it might be something they'd be interested in having. So if they're willing and say, most of them are willing to say, hey, we'll give up a couple of parking spaces to have a food truck here on a couple of nights a week or whatever, that might be something to look into, because if we get their buy-in, then, then they're making that decision. And then this is just curious, how many food truck slots do we have?
A lot. Because right now, we're opening it up any day of the week.
Right.
At the number of parks that we presented. But part of that application is going, okay, this person wants the third Saturday of every month at Vets. Does that work? We have to look at our existing permits, our long-term permits, and just see, does that conflict or does that work? So that the possibility is that this could bring in a lot of food trucks. The actual layout, the rollout, we have to compare it with our other permits. So the application process, that's one reason why we want it to be in April, to give us really enough time to make sure we're doing our due diligence to balance the activities in the parks.
Okay.
Just one final comment from me, because my neighborhood would expect it. I noticed that Blair Hills Park is often not on these lists for these special things. And they may not want to have it in the neighborhood, but the business might want to be there, because depending on where you would put for the truck, you also have the Stoneview Nature Center, which draws a lot of people, especially on the weekends. So I'll just put a pin in it.
And coming off the Kenneth Hahn hike.
Yeah, all the trucks that are in front of the Culver steps.
Yeah.
The Baldwin Hill steps, not the downtown.
Yep. Hearing no other comments, I guess staff has been diligently taking notes on this. Is there a motion to receive and file this report?
I think,
Will still not be. No, It may still. I'm scrolling down to the bottom. It may still not be operating. That's okay, we can do a voice vote.
Yeah, it looks like we're still having
Okay.
some
That's fine.
tech issues, but do we have a motion on here? It looks like Commissioner Chen motioned, is that correct?
Yes, although it disappeared. Okay, so I move to receive and file a report on the potential food truck permit program to regulate the operations of food trucks near parks.
Do we
I-
have,
I thought I had seconded, but then it disappeared. So I second the motion.
It's like invisible ink.
okay, we'll just do a voice vote by roll call, because I don't know if it's going to work, but Commissioner Whitaker,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Bond,
Aye.
Vice Chair Peters,
Aye.
Chair Alexander.
Aye.
With that, that motion passes unanimously.
And you were probably going to do it anyway, but could I request staff to let all the commissioners know when this gets a date to go before the city council, please? I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Moving on to action item A2, which is a receipt and filing of a report regarding updates to PRCS fees and charges and fees, and to provide feedback to staff as deemed appropriate. I don't see any speakers on this item. Could we have a,
Oh, no, there's one speaker.
We have
There
one.
is?
Yeah, we have one speaker, but.
oh, okay, I don't see it on my list as a speaker. Okay, yes, please.
Interesting. Yeah, so I guess
So-
there's just tech issues tonight. But Debbie Gambino was here earlier, but she stepped out of the meeting. She said she won't be speaking on this item.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Can we have a brief staff report, please?
Next slide. Okay, go back one slide. I just see where we started. Okay, so for information for all of the commission, this has been something we've been working on since 2025. The current fees that are associated with PRCS programs and rental facilities are from 2014. The city did a citywide fee study where it sort of did an introduction to updates to PRCS fees, but it did not go into actually updating the fees. It kind of just gave an overall recommendation of how to go about that. So what we're going to be presenting tonight, staff has been working with finance, and we've been working with a consultant from NBS. NBS is the company that did the citywide fee study. So we've been working with them to fine-tune our math and how we come up with the cost of all our programs to make sure it's in line with the state constitution and in line with everything the city requires with its municipal code. We're still working on numbers, so tonight we are not going to be able to give you specifics on like this is what this is going to be charged, but I did want to take this time to let you know the direction we're going to with the new cost recovery philosophy. We have made some changes since we last spoke on this a year ago, so I just want to let you know that direction and to receive feedback on the cost recovery philosophy that will be taken to City Council once we have the actual fees determined. Go ahead, next slide. So when we talk Parks, Recreation, and Community Services fees, we're always looking at this concept called the common good. And if we're looking at if our programs are essential, our programs are accessible, and our programs are addressing need, where those categories overlap, that is what we believe would be the common good, meaning it's going to serve the most people. Utilizing this idea of the common good, we then say, well, is this where we should be subsidizing with tax money? Because if people are putting the money into one pot that PRCS is using, should we be using that to subsidize the programs that meet those categories? So that's a high-end kind of idea of how we are approaching this new cost philosophy. Next slide. So in years past, what and this was kind of national standards in Parks and Recreation. Things were grouped together by broad categories. And you see a lot of these broad categories in our budget codes, right? We have aquatics, we have sports, we have summer camp, we have after-school programming, we have our teen center, right? And so when we group our programs when we're discussing fees for our programmings and we're grouping things in these broad categories, the question that comes out of it is, what is high priority? Where is the common good that should be served most? And it's really hard if we're going to compare something like youth sports and adult sports, what is the common good, right? Because both of those parties are going to say they are. There's just not a way that we can necessarily get to the heart of it. Next slide. So we are recommending a cost philosophy structure that is very much like this three-legged stool. We have our tax use, revenue, and enhancement philosophy. That's what I am discussing tonight. It is upheld by three categories. The cost of service, what is the actual cost for us to offer the program? Because if we don't understand that cost, we can't exactly decide what the fee can be. For those of you who don't know, this California Constitution has within it a statement that municipal governments, when offering programs, can't charge more than what the program costs. So if we don't know our cost of service, we really, in the state of California, cannot determine what that fee is. So that's a crucial leg for us to be able to move forward with this. Beneficiary of service comes down to that common good. Right? Who is the one benefiting from this service? Is it the common good, or is it a very strong, loud, key group of people who like what they like, right? And then service categories. Service categories, in years past, I went into a lot more detail about this, but the idea of a service category is it gets away from those broad categories of sports and teen center and camp, right? And it gets more to the heart of what is the function of the program. So, next slide. Yeah, I'll use this slide to explain that. So early on in our discussions, we came up with these service categories. So open access were things that were areas that allowed the residents and non-residents access to our certain areas. So a good example is parks, right? Anyone can walk into a park. We're not putting a fence around it. Beginner activities are programs that are meant to teach people specifically a new skill or a new ability. Health and Human Services, that category broadly dealt with any kind of program that helped make life better for the participant or connected them in communication with other groups. Right, it helped prevent isolation, that sort of idea. Drop-in activities were activities where the participant, it wasn't really led by staff. The participant would pay a fee and come and pretty much do the activity on their own. Community events are things that serve the whole community and all groups of the community. It doesn't focus on a specific group. That will come in, but that will be better defined in a moment. Rentals and reservations were our rental rooms, our picnic shelters, those sorts of things. Out-of-school activities were youth activities that were structured around when school was not in session. Specialized activities are a breakaway from beginner activities. So beginner activities teach you a skill. Specialized activities are for people who no longer need to learn the skill. They want to become better at the skill because they have an interest in it. Special events were those niche events that dealt more specifically with a group of people and not the community as a whole. We are about to have our Mother's Day tea, and that's a good example of a special event. We're dealing with mothers, a specific family composition. There's just a lot that goes into that. It's not anyone can show up to Mother's Day tea. And then resales, something I'm very interested in is understanding how we brand PRCS, and through branding this department, we will then be able to sell merchandise. And so that is what the resales category is. I want to go ahead and build it in now. So I frequently tell people, I think a lot of people, if we came up with really cool plunge sweatshirts, I think people would buy them. So that's always my go-to example for this.
Towels.
Or towels. That's a good one. Someone write that down. Spoken like a true swimmer. So that's the idea of these the new categories. I'm no time in defining that did I say this is for aquatics, right? Or no time did I say this is actually summer camp, right? Because aquatics can fit into almost every single one of those categories because of the actual program they're offering. Next slide. Oh, can we go back one? Sorry. So last year, we came to the PRCS Commission. I held a community meeting also to get feedback from the community. And at that time, I asked a question. If you were going to put these categories in order of what is the most common good to least common good, right? What serves that need, that all those circles, and this is where everyone kind of landed for the most part. And you can see it's interesting because I've also met with the Finance Advisory Committee, and I had them do the exercise. I've met with a lot more groups, but this is just the example we pulled. And almost always, the first three fall into place. Open access, free access to our parks, right? Beginner activities is generally always close to the top, and health and human services is almost always close to the top. And then those bottom ones, generally, like resales always comes to the bottom, special events is always at the bottom. It's the middle that generally gets to be a little more complicated and a little more like we have to work out. Next slide. This is this is attached to the staff report, so I'm not going to really go into this. This is the definitions that I quickly just defined. But I think it's important to just know kind of what we're talking about. So go ahead, next slide. So one thing we have done through working on this is, I don't want this to become this overly complicated, burdensome philosophy. And so we are actually wanting to kind of condense some of these categories. And so one example of what we're condensing is if you look at community events and special events, as much as, yes, we could separate that out and try to figure out what cost recovery should be for the different types of events, we think at this point maybe we should just have one category, community events, and what is the cost recovery and how are we subsidizing the events just throughout our department. And the other thing that we combined, we took drop-in activities because as much as I think drop-in activities are really interesting and something the department should probably look into pursuing because it gives, not only do drop-in activities give a sense of community because you're coming for this specific activity, but it also is low cost because staff gives you the opportunity to pursue it, but you do it on your own in essence. So the best example is lap swimming, right? Because the people are showing up, they're swimming on their own. It's not like staff is in the pool teaching them anything. But the lap swimming community in Culver City is a very tight-knit community. So I think that's a great example, and I think that same concept and idea can be applied to a lot of things. But we're not there yet. So looking at what actually fell into drop-in activities, we actually separated it out and did away with that category. Some of them moved to health and human services, and some of them moved into what we now call recreational activities, because also we took beginner activities and moved that in. So there's the new category of recreational activities, includes some drop-in, but it also includes most of the beginner activities. So it just allowed us to have a more streamlined, compact list of these categories that we can then work on how do we subsidize them. Next. So how do we determine cost? In years past, I had a lot more slides that talked about this because determining cost is actually quite a complicated road that we have to go down because a lot of things are taken into account when we look at cost. So where we are right now with determining the cost of each and every single one of our programs, we are looking at the approved budget because in the approved budget, we have part-time part-time staff hours and benefits. We have supplies. We have, if we have a contract for something, that contract is in that approved budget. So a lot of these, like, what are the components of the program is already in our approved budget. So instead of spending the time to separate it out, we're dropping in our approved budget, because we separate it out when we ask for the budget. So we want to avoid doing that again. Indirect full-time program staff at a percent of the whole. So what that means is we are taking full-time staff, not all full-time staff, just the indirect one. I'll explain who doesn't fall in that in a second. But we're taking the full-time staff and we're saying, okay, if the camp budget is 20% of PRCS budget, we're going to take the indirect full-time staff, we're taking 20% of what it costs for us to have them and applying it to that program. So that is what a percent of the whole is. We're taking a percent of their salary and placing it in all the programs based on what percent that program has in our budget. Indirect full-time staff are the staff members that are a little more program focused. So we're looking at our managers, we're looking at our supervisors, we're looking at our coordinators, those positions that are actually assigned specific programs that they oversee. So if a manager is not involved in the senior center, their salary is not being put into those senior center programs. And then the cost allocation plan. NBS is a really amazing company, and they do a lot for Culver City. In addition to the citywide fee study, they also did a citywide cost allocation plan. And so what that did was it took every department that you might not have fees and charges for. So we're talking city attorney's office, the city manager's office, IT, these things, and they figured out a cost allocation plan for all for how the city is supposed to allocate those costs. So because that all has already been done and voted on by city council, we're taking what they say should be allocated for our programs, and we're dropping that into the budget now, into the formula for our cost.
Can I?
Let me finish explaining. I'm almost done with the presentation, then I can take questions. Part of the cost allocation plan includes the director's position, the senior management analyst position, and the deputy director position. So those three positions are not part of that indirect full-time anymore. We have taken those out because they are automatically put into the cost allocation numbers that we are dropping in. So when we look at program cost, you will have the budget, all of those indirect full-time people that work on the program, and then the cost allocation that has already been predetermined for that area. Next slide. This is the last one, right? Yeah. That's why I was like, I'm so almost done. So that is the idea. Let me actually, before we go to questions, let me say one more thing, because I kind of left out the core part of this. So what we are doing is we're taking, that's the order that people, that we kind of took the order of categories and figured out what the most common kind of average is. And we're using that to figure out how we subsidize, right? So open access is getting 100% subsidy. So can we go back to that slide? And resales, we're looking at doing a 0% subsidy on, right? Because the whole point of that would be that we make back those costs, and that's the point. Health and Human Services, I believe we have it at a 20% subsidy, cost recovery, so it's 80% subsidized by the general fund. So we're looking at pairing how we subsidize those programs, what that looks like for cost recovery, and using that based on the cost of the program. That's how we're going to have our fee. So when we go to City Council, we can say, all Health and Human Services, anything that falls into that category is being subsidized 80%, and that's why the program is going to cost what it is. Whereas if we're looking at those specialized activities, which, based on this idea of the common good, specialized activities don't really serve the common good because it's very integral to a person's interest, right? So that, I believe, is only subsidized 20%, and the idea is we're getting 80% cost recovery on those programs. So that's how this all plays into how we get to our final fee. Can you go back one more slide? No, one more. Do I want to say anything here? Oh, yes, I do. The last thing that we have been working on, and you know, thank you for your patience and me being like, I'm going to add a bunch to this thing, because we literally were working on it today leading up to this meeting. Some things that we're looking at, rentals reservation. So our room rentals, our picnic shelters, and our park buildings and our fields. We're looking at trying to, instead of just say, the market rate is like $30 an hour and we're done. We're looking at connecting it to square footage, so that you're actually, so that the price of a room is comparable to the space you're getting. We're also, though, looking at what market rate is, because what market rate is saying and what our square footage rates based on cost are not fully coming out to be the same. So we're looking at, like, if Santa Monica is charging $50 for a room, one of their large rooms, like that's how they might classify it, we're looking at going, okay, this is our square footage. Where is it landing in our formulas, and how does that compare with where the market is? One of the most challenging things about coming up with fees for Parks and Recreation is we can't avoid understanding the market rate, because we are a department in municipal government that has probably the most competition with nonprofits, with the public, with the private sector, right? Because you can go to a hotel and rent rooms. You can, there's a lot of options out there. So one reason why we don't have the fees fully ready for you to see is we're looking at how our rentals are coming based on square footage and how that compares. So we're adding an extra step that we didn't do a year ago, how it compares to the market rate of the industry. Because also in the state constitution, whereas programs cannot cost more than, we cannot charge more than the cost of a program, in the Constitution, it allows us to charge for entrance and access to our facilities. That can be more than the cost of the facility. So rentals, our rental rates do have a little more flexibility when we talk about where they're going to land. So thank you. I am fully available for questions. I do want to give a shout out to Adrian, because he has like day one, I said, okay, here's the huge thing that we're going to be working on, and he has been keeping up with my crazy mind. So thank you, Adrian. He has been a huge help. And for the first time, I am seeing us get to the end with this. But I'm available for any questions, and I am very interested tonight in hearing what you think of this philosophy and the direction we're having, and any questions or comments you have about that.
I have a question that's not a philosophy question, but I'll get to the philosophy one. The cost allocation plan. I'm familiar in the past when cost allocation plans were drawn up so that you could easily apportion the general fund department contributions to the enterprise fund operations of the city. In other words, the transportation department, the solid waste utility, and the sewer. Are you saying now we're going to actually use the cost allocation plan to embed some of those costs from general fund departments in the fee structure of PRCS? Because that would be something brand new.
Yes. So
Wow.
One thing we are doing, we've been meeting with this consultant, and basically her job has been, and she has been amazing to work with. She probably blushed that I say that, but she's been amazing. But she has the difficult task of saying, okay, I have these parks and recreation people on this end saying this stuff, and I need to connect them with what finance is saying. And so one recommendation she had is we already have this cost allocation plan that finance has approved and city council has approved. And so it's going to help us move this along if we align it with finance documents. So by putting in that cost allocation plan that does do exactly what you say and put those things that normally are not considered for Parks and Rec, but by doing that, it's aligning it with other documents that will allow it to have stronger legs when we're standing in front of city council.
And you probably don't know the answer to this question, but I'm also intrigued. Is there going to be a throughput to do this with other departments that do fees and charges as well?
That, yeah, I do not know the answer to that. I will say a lot of the fees and charges for other departments were updated last year.
Right.
And there is something going to City Council soon where they will do their annual readjustment. How much of the cost allocation plan is put into those fees, I just don't know.
Thanks, okay. Commissioner Chen?
I think you said you've presented some versions of this before, but that predated my time as a commissioner, so it's nice to get the presentation, because I think it's been previewed or teased as a upcoming attraction. But I really appreciate, since I was the person who was like, what is our aim with the food trucks? Like, I really appreciate the emphasis on the philosophy and really like, what are the underpinnings for how do we approach this? How do we explain it to people? How do we, make sure that we're applying some structure consistently and equitably? So I do really appreciate that. And I like the consolidation of categories. Too many categories, I can't hold them all in my head at the same time. So the streamlining is appreciated, and I vote for merchandise all the way. Sounds great. We just received a package of Metro. My husband is a transit geek, and my child is on the Metro Youth Council, and we just received a package of Metro merchandise that we ordered, so there's definitely an audience for it. And I think towels are great. I've been told that people would like to have lounge chairs on the pool deck, and they could rent them, like a cabana.
Sounds great. Commissioner Whitaker?
I really like how this is coming, from seeing the ad hoc, the fee study ad hoc, and seeing the 70 to 80 slides and looking at them and realizing, okay, I see what's happening, but where are we going and how are we going to get this to a point where we can put this in front of City Council, have these numbers set up to where it is streamlined, you see it, we need this money, the budget is set, and also transparency for people to understand that, say for instance, this activity costs $3, but now it costs $7. And people always say, well, where's my money going? People always want to know where their money going, and that's for the right reasons. But if you can put it in front of them and say, okay, well, it went up $4 because we needed to order these supplies, or because this space costs this much, or because of any other determining factors that are associated with, and you can easily say, well, this is where your money's going, and it's going to somewhere you want it to go. That really gives people a sense of understanding and pride where their money's going. To really, to be honest, to trust their city, that they're doing the right things for them. So it is really awesome to see this and to understand where the percentages of money is going, to understand that we're dealing with the cost allocation plan and the indirect full-time money and the percentage of the whole. How is it going? I know I'm speaking a little fast because there's a lot, but but for them to understand and the community to understand and City Council to understand that this money's taken from here, it's going back into the program, and this is why I honestly believe the programs will definitely thrive because of this. So I don't necessarily have questions per se. I'm sure there may be some questions towards the end when things are really getting wrapped up and we're looking at numbers and things really get heavy. But for right now, I absolutely love where this is going in the fee study. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Bond?
I don't have a lot, other than to say that I was here during the first presentation and part of the voting of what the hierarchy was and everything. And so what you went over, we had already been presented with, but at one point you also presented us with some numbers as well at that point. And I do remember when you said $3 up to $7, it made me think of the plunge, and how the latest survey that was done is that they didn't want it to go up that much. But if you remind them that all of them felt that we needed to increase the pay for our lifeguards and what we are now doing for our lifeguards, this may change their mind about how much they're paying to swim at the plunge. So that's just a point that I have. Is like you said about pointing out where the money is going. The fact that we are going to be offering more full-time positions, that's going to allow the pool to stay open more, and that they get more service for that $7. And even though we voted not to have any drop-in lanes, I still think, I'm still on board with the drop-in lanes. I mean, I'm listening to the people, but that also might ease some of the pain of paying more money. Just saying. Anyway, I think you guys have done a great job. I know this is a lot of work.
Vice Chair Peters.
Thanks. Yeah, again, kudos on the amount of work that's been done for this. It really is a lot. And I really like the framework that you have. And I think what's really nice about this is at the end of the day, we can be really transparent about why certain things cost a certain amount to do, or to have, to go to such a program, or, we can also hold up and say, like, everybody likes these community events that are subsidized at X%, which means that, like, the actual cost of this thing is, let's say it's $20, but you're only paying 10 or whatever. I think that's just really helpful. I also think that including the cost allocation plan is important, because so often people forget about everything else that has to go in, like IT or things like that, that actually make the city work. So I don't really have any questions. I think this looks really good, and I hope for your sakes you get to finish this soon.
I will second Vice Chair Peters' motion on that particular item. Of course, since the inception, and I've been on the ad hoc committee when we had a prior commissioner on it at the very beginning, and I'm still on it because, this is where I geek out, right? I mean, it's in my wheelhouse, but I think that the approach that you have taken with it is going to be one that is going to be able to be explained to the public where we're going with it. And I think probably one of the best features of it is one of the things you touched on, which is, to get out of these debates about people's, this is my special program, and look at these in the broad categories. So if you can work very hard to sell that concept with the city council, and then have them understand how things are going to be subsidized, and also remind them that we really need to go here because we haven't adjusted our fees for, I won't say how many, I won't say it, but we need to do it. We need to do it to be fiscally, stable as a department going forward. And I know that, the community's looking at that kind of thing. I mean, you see the city council, trying to address it. They want to create a JPA so that they can do things on more or less the capital side of the house. This here is what's going to allow the department, I think, to be able to thrive from an operational sense. And when we come to the merchandise, oh my God, I think I have to lock that that ball cap down on my head that I got from the Parks Master Plan. Everywhere I went with that, people wanted one. So I think for people who are not swimming in pools, that are doing other things, either on fields or courts, they would like hats. So I would say that. But I just want to thank you again for all the work. And by the way, I was very intrigued when I read that the cost allocation plan is going to be included in there, and I will make a recommendation next time I see the higher-ups that they need to include that for all the departments as well, because it always should have been that way. So that's great. Thank you. And with that, we'll take a motion. I guess we might as well just continue with voice votes rather than trying to fix the broken tech here.
I see a motion by Vice Chair Peters. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Peters, seconded by Commissioner Whitaker, to receive and file the updates from the PRCS Commission, wrong one. To receive and file the report regarding the updates to the PRCS department charges and fees and provide feedback to staff as deemed appropriate. We'll just continue with the voice votes. So Commissioner Whitaker?
Aye.
Commissioner Chen?
Aye.
Commissioner Bond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Peters?
Aye.
Chair Alexander?
Aye.
All right, and with that, the motion passes unanimously.
And we're moving on to A3, receipt and filing of updates from members of the PRCS to ad hoc subcommittees and representative appointees to outside associations and city committees. That's a mouthful. So the first one is the Senior Citizens Association Board of Directors. Commissioner Bond.
Okay, so it was this last Monday. Some of the highlights are that they approved the Older Americans Month, which is great. They also approved the Boy Scouts funding for the spaghetti dinner. So they're, rather than it being $10, it's going to be $5 for the seniors. And they will also be showing Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs because it's a spaghetti dinner. Prom is Saturday, June 6th at Vets Park Auditorium between 4 and 7. They also replanted the Rose Garden last week on Wednesday. The Spring Boutique is tomorrow from 9 to 2 p.m. So there'll be all kinds of neat crafts made by, I believe, all of the seniors there, if you're so interested. And the Senior Center won the lottery for the first time. They've applied. Apparently, LA Opera opens where senior centers around LA area can apply to go see a dress rehearsal for an opera. And ours finally won it. And today there are about 20 people from our senior center who are going to see, or went to see, the Falstaff dress rehearsal, which is very cool. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And so that's pretty much it.
Great. Thank you. Culver City Arts Foundation, Vice Chair Peters.
We were not able to attend, myself or Marcy, but I got their minutes. So a lot of, beyond their like normal stuff, they started discussing fiscal year 27 budget and activity planning, their staffing for their various programs, their Olympics, programming and fundraising, their summer concert series that they do. They talked a lot about the CCUSD position cuts. People don't know, they're cutting arts positions, and various other programs they have. They talked about updates about what they're doing with the city. And then they always talk about like their ongoing events. And I'm now on their email list, so I get all their emails about the ongoing events, and they have a lot of different events going on. So they're a pretty active group. So that's my report.
Great. I just wanted to add in relationship to arts and cultural affairs in general, you may recall that when we were putting together the Parks Master Plan, that we had a number of times when we had the various meetings about that we had representation from the Arts Foundation to talk about those components that went into our Parks Master Plan. So if you've been following city events on the cultural side, the Cultural Affairs Commission, I don't know if it's gone to the city council yet, but they selected the vendor consultants that are going to be working on the city's cultural plan. So I've talked to one of the commissioners about that, and I think that they may wish, and we can bring this up at a future, meeting, but there may be the desire to have a reciprocal relationship with someone on our commission participating in various events from that. So I anticipate at some point the Cultural Affairs Manager may want to put something on our agenda related to that as they begin to flesh that out. Just wanted to bring that up. The next item is the Summer Olympics Preparation Ad Hoc Subcommittee. So I wanted to let you all know that I've been having a dialogue with the Deputy Director. As you know, we've had some vacancies in the department, especially in the director position, and we are still plowing through amazingly with all these things, like the two items that we've dealt with tonight. So that means there's been not as much bandwidth to be able to sort of move this particular item forward, and it is the desire of the deputy director to wait until the new director comes on board. My only concern about it is I know that the Cultural Affairs Commission has already been working very diligently in their pieces, and it was Jesse Mays, who was the Assistant City Manager, was the main driver of this, but now it is the Economic Development Manager, Elaine Garrity-Warner, who's the main driver. At some point, probably next month, they may put together what they call the mega meeting of various representatives from committees, commissions, boards, and also other related stakeholders like representation from the Vende Museum and the Culver City Unified School District. So I'm hoping and crossing my fingers that we can have another touch base at least on this, not to say that we have definitive ideas what we're going to be doing to activate our parks for the Olympics, but I know there's always been the plan for that, so hopefully we can, now that we're moving some of these other big issues, bigger for the department in a way for its long-term health, but that we can move that forward. So that's my long way of saying I don't have a report right now, but hopefully in the future. The next one we don't have to deal with because we just had a staff presentation on the, I think that's the one, right? Recreational Programming and Rentals Fee Study. So we will continue to look forward to having actual numbers hang on to this, Deputy Director. Yes.
And just for the two members to know, we'll probably be scheduling a meeting with you in May, so you can kind of see what the numbers are looking like before it goes to City Council. The goal, I'll stop it there. We'll try to schedule a meeting with you in May.
Okay, great, thank you. And then we have the Plunge Procedures Ad Hoc Subcommittee. Is there?
We haven't met, so.
Okay. The Naming and Renaming Minor Facilities Ad Hoc Subcommittee.
We've tried to meet.
Once this food truck is done, that's on our next plate to really get in there and meet with you all again and get it moving. So it is, we just got to get this food truck thing out of the way.
And the last one, strangely enough, is the Food Truck Permits in the Parks Program. I guess we should leave this on here until it actually gets put on a council agenda before we remove that from our list. Okay. I think that's all of them. Is there a motion to receive and file?
I will motion even though I can't press a button. I have no button.
Okay,
So I move to receive and file the updates from,
we have a motion by Commissioner Bond. Do we have a second?
I second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Bond, seconded by Vice Chair Peters, to receive and file the updates from the ad hoc subcommittees. We will now go to a vote. Commissioner Whitaker?
Aye.
Commissioner Chen?
Aye.
Commissioner Bond?
aye.
Vice Chair Peters?
Aye.
Chair Alexander?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving to item A4, which is receipt and filing of our meeting calendar and upcoming agenda items with adjustments, if any.
Yeah, I do just want to note that 2 items were left off when the staff report was released, but they're highlighted here. They are still discussions to be determined, but wanted to highlight that, that they are put back on the agenda.
I don't see them.
The analysis.
What?
Up on the screen.
Oh, up on the screen, great. Got it, thank you.
Yeah, so for the May meeting, we have the updates on Culver West Alexander Playground, and then the history and update on the Boneyard / Friends of the Dog Park. Don't have anything scheduled for June as of yet, and then these are still to be determined. Down here, we have some council items that are going on these dates. A recognition for the 20th anniversary of the Boneyard, approval to apply for a Lowe's grant. The food truck permit regulations, we're planning to go to council on the 11th. And then a couple contracts we're looking to amend, and then a policy surrounding the lights at Vets Tower.
I would like to add that Lowe's grant, so one thing this commission has heard and something we've been getting from the community is the desire to have a community garden, right? This is not news, but funding for a community garden has just been a little hard for our department to come by. So the Lowe's grant that we are requesting to apply for will basically allow Lowe's to build a community garden at Vets Park. So that's the intent behind it, to fund us getting the, and if we get the grant, we'll definitely bring a plan and give you all more details. The last time we came to this commission, one major feedback that you all had was that you wanted the garden expanded a little more and kind of laid out, shifted to allow for more plots. And so we did honor that. So what we've submitted, what we're going to submit in the grant has that more expanded look and more plots in it. So if City Council approves us applying for the grant and we get it, we'll come back and give you the plan and the timeline for that.
Is there any reason why they wouldn't approve it? I just want to say that this is this is the kind of thing that we asked for the position for the department to be doing, is to bring those kind of things back. So hopefully the answer would be yes. Okay. So this is the time, I'll remind the other commissioners if there are other items that you wish us to delve into for other dates to be determined. This would be the time and the place.
At some point, under dates to be determined, could we get a report about the Lindbergh Park playground renovation?
We could do that in June.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we need to think about dates to be determined. I think we can go ahead and just do that in June. If the commission is okay with it being in June. It's your calendar, not mine.
Right now, we show nothing for June, so that would be good. Also, do I need to say anything about that potential item for the, what were they calling it? The cultural plan for the city and our possible involvement? Or is that just, or will staff put that on there at the time the cultural affairs manager is ready to speak to it?
So we did have an internal staff kickoff meeting, and PRCS is represented as that internal staff for the consultant to meet with. So let me reach out to cultural affairs and see what their timeline is. So staff will take the measures to agendize that.
Great, thank you.
I was just wondering if this could be on dates to be determined, only because of the stuff that has been happening in and around the parks. If there could either be someone from the police department or someone to come in and tell us how, even our code enforcement to come in and explain to us how what is being done or what can be done to help ensure that the parks are safe. And make people feel comfortable taking their children there or going there themselves. It's just are there any plans or if there's any plans?
So yes, we can add that to dates to be determined. One thing I want to make everyone aware is, so you all met Adam Troy tonight. He is the Assistant City Manager on Vitality and Economic Development. And so the areas that report to him are Parks and Recreation, Cultural Affairs, Economic Development, Special Events, and Housing and Human Services. Our Housing and Human Services Director retired back in December. And so the new person who has been hired hasn't started yet. I don't know the exact date. So one reason.
Sometime in May,
Sometime in May.
that's what I heard.
So a major thing about this conversation about safety in our parks is we can talk about safety, but I want the conversation to not just include code enforcement and police, but also housing and human services, because
That's a
it really
component
is
piece.
a big component of it.
Yes.
So I fully am fine with having this, but the reason staff supports it being on to be determined is I want that person to get onboarded and then to start that conversation to see the direction the new director wants to go, and then we can come back with this.
Yeah, no, it's just a matter of us at least having it on our radar to discuss it.
Any others? No? Okay.
I make a
Sorry.
motion to receive and file this, whatever, the PRCS Commission calendar and updating agenda items.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Tired today.
So we have a motion by Vice Chair Peters, seconded by Commissioner Bond, to receive and file the PRCS Commission 2026 meeting calendar and upcoming agenda items list with adjustments. We will now go to a vote. Commissioner Whitaker?
Aye.
Commissioner Chen? Commissioner Bond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Peters?
Aye.
Chair Alexander?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously.
Moving to public comment items not on the agenda. I don't see any. Do we have any? No? Okay. Then we'll move to items from members and staff. I'll start with staff, and could you please talk about the Lindbergh, a little bit about the Lindbergh Park meeting, specifically addressing what some of the people were saying earlier about potential elements for children with special needs, and then also touch a bit on the meeting regarding Tellefson Park plan, please. Thank you.
Yes, so it has been a busy couple of weeks because we have had multiple meetings, two of which were mentioned by the chair. So I'll talk about Lindbergh Park first. Last Saturday, staff held a community meeting to discuss the early phases of the playground. And what our intent with this meeting wasn't necessarily to present a plan, but to get feedback from residents of the Lindbergh Park area about what they like about their current playground, what they want out of a playground, and what they kind of envision it being. So when we talk what is the vision of a playground, who is more important than children, right? So we brought layouts of the park and allowed all the kids to draw their ideal playgrounds so that we could kind of learn what their interests are, learn what themes they like, what colors they like, kind of the idea of what a child envisions that playground looking like. The other thing I am a big component for is when we talk playgrounds, it's easy to fall into a trap of only thinking of playgrounds we see on a regular basis. So we all know what the playground at Vets looks like. We know what the playgrounds at Tellefson Park, at Fox Hills Park. What I didn't want to get out of this meeting is people saying, well, I want the same type of playground that I know. So we did do a presentation for the parents where we went through all the different components of what a playground can have and what themed playgrounds look like across the country so that they can get an idea. Ryan, our landscape architect, had really great examples of one playground that had a bug theme, one playground that had a space theme, one playground that had a underwater theme. So just kind of like the different visuals we could do with playgrounds. We also expressed to the community that the department's goal, and this is something that's mentioned in the Parks Plan, is that Lindbergh Park is a fully accessible playground. So the example, the closest example we go to is Aiden's Place, because that is a fully accessible playground for anyone of any ability, and staff is committed to making this playground Culver City's fully accessible playground. And then also that doesn't just come into, we didn't go into this in the meeting, but I'll add it here. It's not just talking about the playground per se, but it's also talking about, again, the pathways around the park there, how people get from where they park into the park and can access the playground. So all of that we are taking into consideration because the footprint of Lindbergh Park gives us some of the most flexibility of what we can do there, which is why we talk big themes. Like, do you want an octopus that you can climb through, right? Because we think we can do something really cool there. But also, if we are looking at making our parks more accessible, which I am very committed to, the Parks Plan is committed to, I think that is the direction we want to go. Then let's start with Lindbergh Park, where we have the most flexibility with how that playground looks. We had a pretty nice turnout. It was a Saturday morning. The kids got really kind of excited. There were some when we talk themed playgrounds, we have custom designs that go into that, and some of the custom designs kids got really excited about. So it was kind of fun just seeing them kind of in awe of what could happen. So it ended up being a really kind of nice community meeting, and I think the residents around Lindbergh Park, they're ready for a new playground because they do have the oldest playground in the city right now, and they're, I think, excited with the possibility because, it was a good opportunity to, like I said, to introduce what a playground could be to people who aren't getting catalogs mailed to them every day like I am. So it was a nice meeting, and I think it was very successful. We also had a Tellefson Park redesign meeting with residents in Tellefson Park. Out of that meeting, there were a lot of concerns brought to us about some of the restroom, the parking in the area, the unhoused located at Tellefson Park, lighting, fencing. They definitely, there were a lot of things that staff have taken back and met about and kind of talked about. So we are still trying to think and figure out what the future for Tellefson Park is, meaning, we have the fitness court going there. There was some pushback on them having a fitness court. So we're playing with the idea of maybe instead of doing the full fitness court, just doing half of it there at Tellefson. We are also playing with the idea of moving the fitness court to Culver City Park because that is a backup location. We're trying to balance park improvements with park desires from that community. So it was definitely a community meeting that has led staff to reevaluate and think. So we will probably be coming back to the commission with a new proposal of what Tellefson Park could be. Probably more closer into the fall. Once we get through summer, we'll have that. So that meeting also happened. Part of staff updates, I did want to say that we have the Mother's Day Tea, as I've already referenced tonight. It is happening May 2nd in the Rotunda Room at Veterans Memorial Building. It is one of our, I think it's one of our more popular specialized events. It's an opportunity for any kind of mother figures in someone's life to come, and we have tea and some kind of like tea food that goes with it. This year, last year there was an opportunity we partnered with the Garden Club and they built flower bouquets, so you could kind of pick out your flowers and make some cool things. So that's happening again this year. Is that not for me now? And we are also introducing something new. We're also doing something new this year where they're going to be able to design their own perfume at the Mother's Day Tea. So it's going to be, I think, a really fun kind of nice event to honor mothers of any version in your life. Also, we have been meeting with, the department is partnering with economic development. This is something that I think we are striving to do a lot more of, bridging our opportunities to work with other departments and how can we work together to do really amazing things. So we're partnering with them to do a series of events this summer structured around the FIFA World Cup. So we are doing a handful in parks. We're doing 2 at Veterans Park. The first one is June 12th, and it's going to be kind of a nice launch to the entire series of events. We'll bring out the big screen. We'll be showing the game that night. There will be a beer and wine garden happening at Vets, and we're also going through some ideas of different non-alcoholic versions we can offer also. And we're going to have field games out, and it's going to be a nice beginning of the series. We're also doing an event at Tellefson Park on June 24th, which that is a Mexican game. And so we're partnering with some of the restaurants around Tellefson Park. We're going to have a folklorica group come and dance. We're going to do a DJ that night between during the halftime and around the game. We're also going to bring the screen, and it will be a watch party that night also. And then July 11th, there's 2 games we're showing. So we'll have those on the screen, but we're going to start in the morning. We're partnering it with our family field day that we did last year. So it's going to start with stations. Families will be able to sign up for teams that are named after different companies in the World Cup. And like a classic field day, they'll have stations, tug of war, all those classic games we have. We're looking at partnering with other soccer organizations right now to also, in addition to having our classic field day games, they'll be able to do different soccer games too. So that will transition into, we're bringing in a spotlight time after our field day ends, where we will be doing soccer-specific competitions and one-offs kind of thing. That will lead into the afternoon game. After the afternoon game, we're bringing in the beer and wine garden back. We're going to have all of our lawn games out and a silent disco that night. And we'll have a silent disco that leads into the evening game. So that is a full day of come hang out at Vets Park, enjoy games, enjoy competition, and enjoy the World Cup. In addition to, so that is what Parks is doing for the series. In addition to that, Economic Development is going to be, and we don't have the dates for Economic Development, do we?
I only know the July 19th final.
The final, okay. So in addition to that, we're looking at doing So July 19th final is going to be happening in downtown. So we're going to be supporting economic development by having staff and, just seeing what they need. But that's on their end. They're doing a huge watch party for the final. And then also they're at the IV station. There will be 2 games whose dates we don't have, unfortunately. So I'll make sure you all are aware of them when we get closer. But we're doing watch parties there too. That's through economic development, working with the Ivy Station. So it is going to be a fun summer of us celebrating the World Cup and trying to bring people together to not only enjoy the sport, but have community also. And that is all I have. Do you want to talk next?
Good evening. I just have a few things. One for youth sports, dodgeball is full and started this past weekend. Great turnout. Parents were extremely excited. It was a great day. The other few things are about the plunge. The pool deck was patched on the east side, and on the north side it was cleaned up and finished and resealed. So we've done some work there. In addition, there is a lifeguard class this weekend. It's almost full. We have been getting interviews or applicants from these classes, so we're very excited to keep hosting them. And lastly, Aquafit is back at the pool, so we are very excited for that. Thank you.
Commissioners, Commissioner Whitaker, do you have any parting thoughts?
As always, thank you so much, staff. Oh, it's been a busy couple months, like just back to back to back, and we're going to even ramp up even more because summer's coming up. So, once again, thank you so much. What I really am looking forward to, though, is for the World Cup and using our screen, our lovely screen. That it is a nice screen, and but this gives us the opportunity as a precursor to prepare how we're going to operate for the Olympics. And so this is a nice warm-up for us to see, does this work? Does this not work? And so we can go even more prepared than we would if the Olympics just dropped on us, right? And it's a spread out, so you get the opportunity of setting it up one week, and then in the next 2 weeks is another game. So whatever didn't work for that first week that the certain teams played, like, okay, we can revamp and then set it up a little bit differently. If people are sitting over here for the beer and wine garden, and have how that structure, how that looks at each different location. So I really think that's a awesome setup that we have that'll probably work, and it'll work going forward, and even different events. Obviously, like Fiesta, that's pretty much set up. We know how that works and how that moves and functions. But even with this event, the World Cup, that might even spawn new ideas that we could use throughout the city. So I think it's great. I think it's awesome. And once again, thank you so much.
Commissioner Chen.
I guess I just want to reflect, at least it seems to me, that there's like this really lovely kind of shift in energy. Like we've been talking about, and I think seeing the bullet points that have come out of the Let's Talk series, and just this community-wide sort of emphasis on parks. And I guess maybe that's for me, but also I think I see it in the staff and the commissioners. Like, it just feels like there's sort of a shift in energy from that positive feedback. Like, just, I don't know, focus and excitement and a flexibility and sort of playfulness in terms of like, let's try this, and we can always pivot and we can adapt and incorporate feedback. And anyways, I'm just really enjoying that.
Thank you. Commissioner Bond.
Something that I had forgotten about. I went to a grand opening for a new restaurant called Mom's List over at the corner of Washington and Sepulveda. I don't remember if it's Place or Boulevard. I always get confused with those. But the food is delicious, by the way. But while I was there, I ran into Councilmember O'Brien, and we got to talking about the Olympics because I told him I got some tickets. And then he said, where are you going? I went, where am I going? To the swimming events. I mean, come on. But what he did tell me was that we have 5 countries that are going to be here. I don't remember which all of them were, but I know besides New Zealand, we also have Denmark. And I think Denmark's going to be at the Vending Museum. We have another one that's going to be at the platform. And I don't remember where the 2 other are going to be, but I thought,
Was one from Africa, or they were?
Senegal.
Was it Senegal, I think?
Yeah, but I don't know if they've decided on, he told me them, but I was also distracted by the delicious food. No, just it's really exciting. And I think getting started, as Commissioner Whitaker said, getting started with the FIFA, and then ramping into the Olympics, and then being buoyed by how important everybody has spoken up about how much they love the parks. I'm hoping this will shine a light on just how much we do and how important, I mean, you guys do, really, and how important the parks is to the community, and maybe we'll get them a little more love. So, we already have love, but you know what I mean. Anyway.
Great. Yeah, just echoing what Commissioner Chen said. It's been nice to see everybody come out and support the parks. We also, I have to say, having now been on this commission for a couple of years, like, we're doing more than, I feel like you guys are doing more, and like new stuff, cool stuff. And I'm glad that you're all doing that. I also hope you get to take vacation at some point. But I think it's a really great job, and I hope that not only do we see the love, but we also see the cash money coming from council.
That was what love was meant to be.
Love is green. I'm going to echo some of the things that were said by all of the commissioners here, which is, we sit here so often and we have to deal, with fees and charges and the business side and stuff, but in the end, it's all in the service of exactly what the deputy director was talking about. All the excitement that's coming from what the entire staff, he's the voice for it, but the entire staff is putting forth on these programs. And I don't know if it's kind of going to be like a new day for PRCS, but I'm hearing it. I mean, when I had my first meeting with Adam Troy, who was here, and he was talking about his desires to see more of a linking of arms of economic development and cultural affairs. And now you're hearing about it. I actually got to see a little bit of it in action. Went to and Commissioner Whitaker was there, and I went to the Tellefson Park meeting. You may recall that the sports court is going to have that wall on it. They could have some art on it. Lo and behold, the cultural affairs manager was at that meeting. So these linkages are happening at the staff level, and I think it's only going to, benefit the parks in the end. And if whatever we can do in service to help that, I think it's great. I thank staff. And I'm done, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
I second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bond, seconded by Vice Chair Peters to adjourn the meeting. We'll now go to a vote. Commissioner Whitaker?
Aye.
Commissioner Chen?
Aye.
Commissioner Bond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Peters?
Aye.
Chair Alexander?
Aye.
With that, the motion passes unanimously, and the meeting has adjourned at 9:38.